$3.99. Same price for African violets, also just $3.99. And listen to this. Blooming hanging baskets, buy one, get one at half price. Buy one for mom, get one for yourself. Bob also has Confederate jasmine, buy two, get one free. And a huge selection of pottery just arrived, with prices starting at just $5.99. Hurry on over for Mother's Day. Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens on Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. And yes, we are open. From Bob, Happy Mother's Day.
WOCA. Ocala.
Good morning. You're listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. Streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, The Source Radio. Just one more shout out from our segment there with Galen from Life South Community Blood Centers. We just wrapped that up now at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. Special thanks to Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center, located at 2700 Southwest 34th Street. Any questions on how they're handling COVID-19? Our friends Palm Garden, give them a call, 352-854-6262. And one more time for Penn Flooring, 1201 Southwest 17th Street in Ocala, family owned and operated for all of your flooring needs. Special thanks to, again, Penn Flooring, 351-3420, 351-3420. As we're moving on here with our show this Wednesday, as I think my cup of coffee's kicked in now, that's for sure. As we're rolling through it, we've got news bits of news that I can chew and probably spit out and not swallow, as this is more about what's going on with our community and just touching on some stuff and events that take place. And like my rant this morning before the 8 o'clock hour is just how intense emotionally everything is a foreshadow for fear. But nonetheless, we're going to move on from that. As we do, one of the things that we were talking about with Galen was the mention of what's been brought up in the Ocala Star Banner is how local leaders want the governor to allow more local leeway for the coronavirus reopening. As mentioned, as of Tuesday morning, the county commission had not heard back from Governor Ron DeSantis' office concerning the commission's request for more of an expansive reopening protocol in Marion County. Commission Chairwoman Kathy Bryant, who we have, who's a friend of and a regular within our show here, Kathy Bryant said she's in regular communication with her counterparts in this region, and they are considering making a regional appeal to the governor. The planning for such a move could already be underway, as, quote, Marion County is not alone in its thinking, Bryant said during Tuesday's regularly scheduled commission meeting. DeSantis' order, obviously announced last week, stopped short of what Marion leaders wanted, and I think what a lot of people in Marion County kind of wanted, and what's the state's reopening task force recommended, as far as more opening things back up. Bryant publicly called out the governor last week, asking for more local control, since Marion has not been overwhelmed, the local medical community in lieu of COVID-19. As of Tuesday morning, Marion had 193 positive COVID-19 tests and only 5 deaths. Among other things, local leaders would like to see restaurant dining rooms open to at least 50% capacity, not the current 25%. Gyms and salons remain closed, but local leaders would like to open them to 50% capacity as well. So gyms and salons that remain closed, open them up to at least 50% capacity. DeSantis has a new conference scheduled Tuesday. This was yesterday in Sarasota, which are helpful. That he will give us different guidance, Bryant said during the meeting. But that did not happen. It says, meanwhile, the effort to increase testing has gained new urgency. Preston Boland, the county's emergency management director, told commissioners on Tuesday that the new goal is to test 7,000 Marion residents during May. To date, Marion has tested about 5,200, with about 4% of the test coming back positive. The Florida Department of Health in Marion County is offering testing to everyone, regardless of symptoms or lack of symptoms. Appointments are required. And again, to be scheduled, give them a call, 644-2590. That's if you have those symptoms and are thinking of wanting to get the test and to come through 644-2590. Now, to help meet the testing goal, Bolin said that the health department is setting up new special plans to test employees of county government, the school system, the hospitals, residents at 355 or older residential communities. Kathy Bryant emphasized the Marion County residents must continue following CDC guidelines and prevention guidelines. Wash your hands, social distancing, stay home if you're sick, to not gather in large groups, and wearing face covering masks. In the idea of continuing all of this, especially indoors, adherence to the rules is what has allowed Marion to keep the community, they say, spread to a minimum. Quote, "We are not saying drop your guard," Bryant said, and that's where we're kind of going with the conversation too, is the commonsensical stuff that I think a lot of people, a lot of smart, intelligent, knowledgeable people within our community are obviously paying attention to, and then, finding the avenue of which they're going to follow these guidelines, and they have been, but then also tying in some common sense. And that's what I think a lot of people want to feel like they're all right to do, which is bring more common sense and thought to the process. But either way, as mentioned by County Commission, not to drop our guard. Marion's message, she said, is that county can responsibly get business back going and people back to work all at the same time. We can do this, quote, Kathy Bryant, chairwoman, said. So that's where things are at with what they had put forward in lieu of hearing about phase one and what we talked about last week with County Commission about what they were going to do to make mention or notion to Tallahassee with Governor DeSantis, but I haven't heard anything yet. The one thing that we were talking a little bit about with Galen was the mention of, as we talked about May 4th on Monday, the Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, kind of like a nice just change, something else to kind of roll with it. As passerby records video of police ordering woman in a Star Wars costume to the ground on May 4th. And what we were talking about was police officers in Lethbridge, Alberta, are being investigated after at least one pulled a gun on a woman who was dressed as a stormtrooper in a costume and carrying what turned out to be, obviously, a fake firearm as part of the Star Wars-themed business promotion. It started when the police responded to 2 911 calls reporting somebody in a stormtrooper outfit was carrying a firearm along the 500 block of 13th Street North, Lethbridge. The woman in the costume was actually trying to promote a restaurant on May 4th, May the 4th be with you, as its pun on the iconic line. Now, a passerby was shooting video of the stormtrooper, this girl in the costume, in a parking lot outside the Coco Vanilla Galactic Cantina, encouraging her to march like the menacing soldiers do in the movies. When the police showed up, they yelled to get to the ground, shouted one officer, while another approached the costume woman carrying his long gun. Upon police arrival, the subject dropped the weapon but did not initially comply with further police directions as she was trying to explain the circumstances of why she was dressed the way she is and what she was carrying, as the police then directed her to get on the ground. And the weapon was ultimately confirmed to be fake as a firearm, and the female subject, who indicates that she was an employee promoting local business, was not charged, and the female sustained a minor injury but did not require medical attention. But when you see the video, it's a little intense, and that's just, again, where the common sense comes in and where the idea of kind of just being, you know what, and I'm not even saying here that I completely blame anybody for this, because I understand that law enforcement has the responsibility of doing what's necessary to serve and protect, and that line lately, and I blame a little bit of the media, is a little bit vague, a little bit skewed, a little bit gray, a little bit less transparent than it is or should be. So in regards to that, it's just a fascinating article. And if you get a chance to Google that video, stormtrooper attacked, brought to the ground with force, would be the best way to do it. And it's very, very fascinating. But nonetheless, I digress. As we're about 10 minutes before the top of the hour, stay tuned. We're going to be talking with the president, Mr. Greg Kowalik, at 9 o'clock from Rapid Deployment Solutions, and be talking about what goes on with their business to help other businesses in the time of need with logistical and technical things that are necessary to run your business and stuff like that, as we're going to continue to show there. Now, as we move on a little bit with the theme parks, we had mentioned, I think it was yesterday or maybe it was the day before, that there still is no timeline with Disney theme parks opening back up. And mind you, if you're wondering why I choose these articles within the Disney theme parks, because it's just enough of a different conversation piece. It's just enough different that it's obviously put forth by what has happened with coronavirus and COVID-19. But I think we consider Disney World to be the happiest place on earth, right? End quote. So let's talk about that and an idea of when it might be coming back up, or just some information that comes to it, because it's a little different narrative, I guess. And that's why I talk about it. And it has to do with our state and has to a little bit do with our economy. And with that in mind, Disney Theme Parks segment has come out with new notions of numbers as the segment of what they're doing to circumnavigate coronavirus pandemic takes a $1 billion hit. Now, nationwide, it says here, the Walt Disney Company said Tuesday that the coronavirus pandemic had a $1 billion impact on its theme parks segment, which took a big hit, obviously, because of COVID-19 related closures. The segment's revenue dropped 10% to $5.5 billion in the first quarter, which ended in March 28th. And according to the earnings report, in the same quarter of the previous year, the revenue was $6.2 billion, which is incredible numbers to begin with. We get it. But when you see that big of a hit, operating income in the second quarter was also down, dropping 58% to $639 million. Now, the pandemic resulted in the closure of the Disney parks around the world, including Disney World and Disneyland, Disney World in our home state. Disney said it lost an estimated $500 million from its domestic parks being closed during the last 2 weeks of March. Prior to the closures, guest spending and attendance at the Disney World and Disneyland had been higher than the same time in the previous year. Disney said, but with the closures, attendance was down 11% in their second quarter, saying, quote, while the COVID-19 pandemic has had an appreciable financial impact on a number of our businesses, we are confident in our ability to withstand this disruption and emerge from it in a strong position, which is some good news, mentioned by Disney CEO Bob Chapek, as you'd like to think that if they're still bringing in that kind of money with that little bit of loss, I mean, it's a big loss, but at the same time, you're still talking gargantuan numbers, that they'd like to see sustainability and what they could see coming out and returning to normal, and the park being open, what they could recoup. In an investor's call following the report's release, Chapek said Disney is taking a, quote, cautious approach to reopening its theme parks. The approach could include the implementation of a number of measures, obviously, including guest capacity, density control measures, health and prevention procedures. And it says here that Shanghai Disneyland will be the first Disney park to reopen. As the CEO Chapek announced on the call, is that the park will begin a phased reopening on May 11th and will use temperature screenings, an advanced reservation and entry system with limited attendance, and increased sanitation measures. And both employees and guests will be required to wear masks. Okay. But just to the idea of what's been going on and how that's impacted our state is when you think about the amount of revenue that's generated just at Disney World in Orlando alone, and then the surrounding areas and what that brings to that community, to our state in a whole, is absolutely incredible. But there you go, nonetheless. As we're moving on just a little bit there, we mentioned something else too, to the idea that amongst some of the national news that's in your face and being just a little bit intense. There was, unfortunately, as we move on with some local news, as an investigation is underway, unfortunately, for a toddler that had drowned at the Southwest Ocala home. An investigation is underway. A toddler drowned in a swimming pool Monday afternoon, according to the Marion County Sheriff's Office. The agency is not releasing the child's information, citing an ongoing investigation by the Department of Children and Families, DCF, as a woman who identified herself as the child's mother told the Ocala Star-Banner that he was 3.5. The family, whose name is withheld, asked for the privacy. At 3:24 p.m. on Monday, deputies were called to a home in southwest Ocala in reference to the drowning. At the residence, deputies met with the boy's mother, who told them that she was looking for her son inside the home. When she did not find him, she went outside the back patio and saw her son in the pool. After taking her information, deputies said that the woman left and followed Marion County fire rescue officials to West Marion County Hospital. Deputies interviewed several witnesses who either performed CPR on the boy or went in the pool to save him. So just some unfortunate mention of that as with the news within our community. As we roll on with some more positive stuff, more has been just mentioned with, and I think we mentioned this a little while back, maybe it was on the national news point of it, but admitted to all 8 Ivy League schools, Florida student ends up making his choice. As we mentioned this before, as Craig McFarland of Jacksonville's Stanton College Preparatory School had to decide which school he'd to go to. Decisions. And in any of them, those decisions were any of the Ivy League schools or perhaps another prestigious university. It says it was early Friday afternoon that Craig McFarland had a big decision to make in the next couple days. Right now, it's a 3-way tie, he said, between Yale, Harvard, and Stanford. McFarland, 18 years old, valedictorian of the senior class at Stanton College Preparatory School, had been accepted by all 8 Ivy League schools. Yale said yes first, and then so did the others: Harvard, Columbia, Brown, Cornell, Dartmouth, Princeton, and the University of Pennsylvania. He got accepted into other prestigious schools as well and set one non-Ivy, Stanford University, at the top 3 list. He notes the difficulty of what he's accomplished. These schools have a 3 to 5% acceptance rate. So just from a statistical standpoint, to get into all 8, that's a 3 to the 8th power. Then you include Stanford. It says he has a full ride offers from all 3 finalists, along with private scholarships he won during his extraordinary tenure at Stanton's, though international baccalaureate program, from which he graduated with a weighted 4.98 GPA. He said he's been told that that's the highest GPA anyone has ever reached there. The path took him through high school was clearly remarkable. More on that later, they say. But so in the story of his young life, in a brief, he is the middle of 3 children raised by Donable Santiago and his immigrant from Philippines. His father says he wasn't around much. He had to do much of his academic work on his own, and his mother was taking college courses when he was younger and has spent the last 6 years commuting long hours to Palm Coast for a job as a registered cardiac stenographer. His family never had much money. He took a part-time job as a tutor to pay for the clubs and activities that he wanted to do. His family has moved about 12 times throughout Jacksonville, eventually settling in the Arlington area. Even making one move as a kid can be tough, he says. Then try a dozen. He's half Filipino, half black, and says that at the times he's felt rejected by both Filipinos and blacks. He's heard racist slurs repeatedly, but he's stuck to himself. He's been to the Philippines twice, once at the age of 4 and again in 2018. But the United States, he's never traveled outside of Florida. So he's trying to pick a college without ever setting foot on campus. McFarland says both his background and his academic achievement got the attention of college admission officers. And it says here, quote, "I've taken 48 different courses throughout high school, and you're only required to take 24, he said. "I've won so many first-place awards, all these academic accolades, but what truly differentiated me was how I was able to present myself as a person throughout my story." He said he's had a mixed relationship, quote, "mixed relationship with Stanton, a prestigious school, as often shows up towards some of the top of the school rankings. He found many students were competitive, always talking about test scores and homework. Everything revolves around who they are as students, where I'm more concerned about how was your day, what movies do you like, and what kind of music do you listen to." McFarland admits right away that he's proud of his academic achievements, the clubs and academic teams he's led, his time on the track and field team, but he's also really happy he was named the school's homecoming prince among some tough competition, and saying, quote, "Winning homecoming prince, it's a matter of how much people like you," he said. "It's a better measure of who you are as a person." Interesting. So props to him as be making his choice here soon as such. As we come to the 9 o'clock hour, stay tuned. Like we said, we've got from Rapid Development Solutions, Craig Kowalik, president there, to talk a little bit about his business and what he can do to help other businesses. You're listening to 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. And remember, we are streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, The Source Radio. More good show on this Wednesday. Roll with me, please. Beautiful day for it. Rolling on through. WOCA Ocala. We're back after this.